On a rainy Thursday evening, Ayan sat alone in his small apartment. The sound of raindrops tapping against the window matching the heaviness in his chest as he tried calling his best friend who hadn't spoken to him for weeks. But in his anxiousness, he dialed one wrong digit. A mistake that connected him to a soft, confused female voice saying, "Hello, who's this?" And that one hesitant hello turned into an unexpected 5-minute conversation. Then 10. And slowly into an hour where Ayan found himself laughing for the first time in months with a complete stranger named Mehak, who explained she was sitting in her car outside a hospital gathering courage to go inside and meet her father who had suffered a heart attack. And Ayan, despite being a stranger, calmed her, guided her to breathe, talked about simple things like the warmth of chai on cold days and silly mistakes he made in college. And although they both knew this call wasn't supposed to happen, neither of them wanted it to end. Before hanging up, Mehak said softly, "Thank you. I think I needed someone today." And Ayan replied, "Maybe we both did." And they ended the call without exchanging details, without expectations, not knowing that this wrong number would reappear in their lives again soon, changing everything they thought they knew about timing, fate, and connection. 2 days passed, and Ayan tried to convince himself that the accidental call meant nothing. Yet Mehak's voice kept replaying in his mind. The softness, the nervous smile he could almost hear. And though he told himself not to, his thumb hovered over the call log until he finally pressed the number again. Not out of desperation but out of a strange pull he couldn't ignore. And when she answered with a surprised "Ayan?" his heart skipped in a way he hadn't felt in years. Mehak confessed that she had saved his number too, not knowing why, just that talking to him had felt easier than talking to anyone else, even her friends. And slowly their conversation restarted like it had never really ended. Ayan sharing how he was trying to restart his photography career after losing his job, and Mehak revealing that her father was recovering. But she felt emotionally drained taking care of everything alone because her family depended entirely on her. What surprised both was how naturally they opened up to each other, how comfortable silence felt between two strangers who technically shouldn't have meant anything to each other. Yet every minute made them feel like they were meant to meet in exactly this strange, accidental way. Soon their call stretched into hours. Again, and for the first time, Mehak laughed without forcing herself while Ayan admitted, half joking and half serious, "If wrong numbers always feel like this, I might start dialing random people," making her giggle and call him crazy. And though they didn't talk about meeting or what they were becoming, both felt it. This connection wasn't random anymore. It was becoming a part of their day, their comfort, their little escape from reality. And when they finally cut the call late at night, Mehak whispered, "Good night, Ayan. Thanks for calling again." Not realizing her voice trembled slightly, and Ayan lay in bed afterward smiling like a fool, knowing this was no longer just a wrong call. It was the beginning of something he didn't have words for yet. Over the next week, Ayan and Mehak fell into a rhythm neither had planned but both secretly craved. They talked every night, sometimes for 10 minutes, sometimes for 3 hours, about everything from favorite foods to childhood memories to fears they had never admitted aloud. Ayan would send her pictures he took during the day, sunsets, streets, random pigeons, and Mehak would voice note her reactions, teasing him when his angles were dramatic or when he tried too hard to sound poetic. And slowly their conversations shifted from casual to intimate, from "How was your day?" to "I miss talking to you today." And even though they lived in the same city, the distance felt irrelevant because their voices had become each other's safe place. One night Mehak sounded unusually quiet, and when Ayan gently insisted, she confessed she had cried in the hospital bathroom after a doctor hinted that her father's recovery might take longer, and she felt she was failing her family. Even though she hid her tears from everyone, she couldn't hide them from Ayan, who stayed silent until she finished and then said softly, "Mehak, you don't have to be strong with me. Let yourself be human." And that was the first time anyone had said something she had desperately needed to hear. Ayan's support felt like a hand holding hers through the phone, pulling her out of the darkness she kept swallowing alone. And without meaning to, she whispered, "I wish you were here," making both freeze for a second because the truth slipped out too naturally. After that night, something shifted. Not in words but in the way they talked, slower, deeper, like every sentence carried weight. And Ayan found himself waiting for her messages the way people wait for sunrise. while Mehak caught herself smiling at her phone like a teenager. One evening she shyly asked to see his face, and he turned on his camera with messy hair and a nervous smile while she appeared with tired eyes. But the most beautiful smile he had seen. And they stared for a moment longer than strangers should, as if memorizing each other's existence. And when the call ended, neither could sleep because they both knew it was no longer friendship or coincidence. It was the kind of connection that grows quietly, softly, but deeply enough to change everything. The turning point came on a rainy Friday night when Mehak called Ayan while standing outside the hospital, her voice trembling from exhaustion and the cold drizzle soaking her hair. She told him her father had finally shown signs of improvement, and she felt such overwhelming relief that she walked out just to breathe. But as soon as she heard Ayan's "Are you okay?" the emotions she had been holding in for months hit her all at once and she broke down. Not in silent tears but in full, shaking sobs she had never allowed herself to release in front of anyone. And Ayan, hearing every tremble, every gasp, felt something inside him twist, because he couldn't stand the thought of her crying alone. Without thinking twice, he grabbed his car keys and left home, driving through the rain-soaked streets with his heart racing, not even telling her he was coming. And when he reached the hospital and saw her standing under the dim yellow light, hugging her arms for warmth, head down, tears mixing with the rain, he felt the world go still. Mehak lifted her head and froze too, shocked to see him, whispering Ayan, like she couldn't believe he was real, and before she could say anything else, he walked up and gently pulled her into a hug. No hesitation, no awkwardness, just a moment two souls needed. Mehak collapsed against him, burying her face in his chest, her hands clutching his shirt as if she had finally found a place to fall apart safely. And Ayan held her tighter than he had ever held anyone, whispering, "It's okay. I'm here," while feeling her heartbeat against his, matching the rhythm of the falling rain. They stood like that for minutes that felt like hours, until her tears slowed and she whispered a shaky "thank you." And he cupped her face, brushing away a tear with his thumb. Both of them staring into each other's eyes with a closeness that neither could pretend was accidental. Mehak's breath trembled as she admitted, "I didn't call anyone else, just you." And those words hit Ayan harder than any confession could, making him realize this wasn't just comfort. This was the beginning of something real. Before they parted, he removed his jacket and put it around her shoulders, and she held it like it was the warmest thing she'd ever worn. When he dropped her home later, their goodbye lingered too long, fingers brushing, eyes holding a silence full of unsaid feelings. And that night, lying on their beds miles apart, both of them finally admitted to themselves what they couldn't yet say aloud. They were no longer two strangers connected by a wrong call. They had become the right person at the right moment in each other's lives. The morning after the night outside the hospital, everything felt different between them. Not spoken, not labeled, but alive. Ayan woke up replaying the way Mehak had held on to him, how her voice had softened when she whispered his name, while Mehak spent her morning wearing his jacket in her room, hugging it without realizing how many times she smiled thinking of him. And when he texted her, "Did you sleep okay?" she replied instantly, almost too fast, with a warmth her messages had never carried before. From that day onward, their bond deepened in a way that wasn't rushed or forced. It simply grew as naturally as breathing, with late-night calls turning into longer talks about life, dreams, fears, and tiny insecurities they never shared with anyone else. Ayan became her calm, her laughter between hospital corridors, while Mehak became the softness he never knew he needed. The person who actually listened, actually cared, and actually understood him. One evening when her father was finally discharged, she messaged him, "We're going home," and he felt such joy that he drove straight to her house with flowers, telling her it was for her strength, not her father's recovery, and she smiled in a way that made his heart skip. Her parents noticed the glow on her face and her mother teased her gently, asking if something was going on. And Mehak's blush said more than words ever could. Weeks passed, filled with moments that stitched them closer. Coffee dates that were supposed to be short but lasted hours. Long drives with music playing softly in the background while her hand rested so naturally in his. Accidental touches that no longer felt accidental. And conversations that made them forget the world around them. One evening on a quiet rooftop, under warm golden lights and a sky sprinkled with stars, Ayan finally gathered the courage to say what had been building inside him. Since the night he held her in the rain. Nervous but steady, he took her cold hands in his, looked into her eyes and said softly, "You were a wrong call, but the right person. I don't want this to be temporary. I want you." Mehak's breath hitched as tears shone in her eyes. Happy tears this time, and she whispered back, "I wanted to hear you say that because I feel the same." And for the first time since they met, the world felt perfectly aligned. Ayan leaned in slowly, giving her every chance to pull away, but she didn't. She met him halfway, their first kiss soft and warm, the kind that didn't rush, didn't demand, but promised something real, something lasting, something worth keeping. From that moment, their story truly began, not as strangers who met by accident, but as two souls who chose each other. And later, long after this moment, when they would finally stand together on a wedding stage decorated with white roses and soft lights, Ayan would whisper to her with a smile, "Who knew one wrong call could lead me to the love of my life?" And Mehak would laugh, touching his face gently as she replied, "Maybe it was never wrong. Maybe it was always meant to be."